Looks like we've got Republicans in disarray as Elon Musk took to Twitter today to attack his own party, writing, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." And then followed up with another tweet. It will massively increase the already gigantic budget deficit to $2.5 trillion and burden American citizens with crushingly unsustainable debt. Now, I have two thoughts here that may seem in conflict with each other, but they're not. The first is that Elon Musk is correct. This bill is massive, outrageous, and an abomination. The Republicans who voted for it absolutely know that they did wrong. It will increase the already gigantic budget and burden American citizens with crushingly unsustainable debt. All of that is true, and it's all worthy of being said. And anyone who claims they're a fiscal conservative who votes for this bill has exposed themselves as a huge hypocrite. But here's the second part. Elon Musk is just as guilty as everyone else for the fact that our government is exploding our deficit. The guy came into government as a special government employee for the express purpose of cutting $2 trillion in waste, fraud, and abuse.
But we set up DOGE.
Yes.
How much do you think we can rip out of this wasted $6.5 trillion Harris-Biden budget?
Well, I think we can do at least $2 trillion.
Yeah!
Yes.
$2 trillion.
And then the goalposts moved.
And how much do you think you've achieved so far?
Our goal is to reduce the deficit by $1 trillion. From a nominal deficit of $2 trillion to try to cut the deficit in half to $1 trillion, or looked at it in total federal spending to drop the federal spending from $7 trillion to $6 trillion.
And then the goalpost moved again.
Well, thanks to your fantastic leadership, this amazing cabinet, and the very talented DOGE team, I'm excited to announce that we anticipate savings in FY26 from reduction of waste and fraud by $150 billion.
But hey, you know what? Let's give Elon the benefit of the doubt, notwithstanding the shifting goalposts as it relates to savings. If your calling is cutting spending and you've got carte blanche to do it, what agency do you think you start with? Probably the one that's failed 7 audits in a row, right? And yet Elon didn't touch the Pentagon. He instead went after USAID, which accounts for all of 0.5% of the budget. The agency that's responsible for delivering clean food and water and HIV prevention to the impoverished across the world. But that agency was investigating Elon's Starlink, and so they got gutted. He then went after the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB, whose only job is to protect consumers from predatory financial institutions, and returned $21 billion thus far to defrauded customers. But that agency was fielding 300 complaints about Tesla and would have had oversight into X's payment processing, and so they got gutted. In fact, every single agency that Elon went after, USAID, CFPB, Department of Labor, NLRB, EPA, DOT, USDA, just so happened to be performing oversight into him or SpaceX or Starlink or Tesla. And all of those agencies were, in some fashion, gutted. In total, Elon promised $2 trillion in cuts that was whittled down to $18 billion, which is not even 1% of the promised cuts. And that's because Elon wasn't actually interested in cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. He was interested in gutting the agencies regulating him and his business interests. That's what this was. It was self-dealing with virtuous window dressing. Which is to say nothing of the fact that he also managed to nab some real juicy government contracts, like the $560 million for SpaceX since January 2025, the $5.9 billion Pentagon contract for the National Security Space Launch Program, the $38.8 million NASA contract awarded in February. The White House is now using Starlink, the FAA is exploring a deal with Starlink to help modernize air traffic control, and you know the Golden Dome nonsense that Donald Trump is selling over and over again? Yeah. Guess who's the frontrunner in a bid for that project to the tune of $25 billion? That would be Elon's SpaceX. Most of that funding comes from the Pentagon, which might explain why, despite this crusade against waste, fraud, and abuse, the only agency that emerged unscathed was the one agency that can't pass an audit for its life, the Pentagon. The poster child for waste, fraud, and abuse didn't get touched by the commission purportedly committed to rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. Again, this has nothing to do with saving money for the country and everything to do with saving money for Elon Musk. So when he comes online and virtue signals about waste, fraud, and abuse and exploding the deficit, dude's got no leg to stand on. He had every resource of the federal government made available to him. He had Trump's full blessing. He had a completely chicken shit, impotent Congress that wasn't willing to lift a finger to push back on him. If he really wanted to cut all of that purported waste, he could have done it. Instead, he gutted a bunch of essential agencies that protect consumers and keep the impoverished alive across the world. He fired a bunch of veterans and left his own cash cows completely intact, all because he wanted to consolidate more money, more wealth, more power, more influence for himself. Elon Musk is a greedy kleptocrat who's got blood on his hands. If he wants to complain about pork, about self-dealing, about out-of-control spending, he might want to consult a mirror. And that's a point that Jessica Tarlov made on Fox here.
Let's also talk about the clear failure of DOGE based on their own set goals. We started at $2 trillion. Then we moved to $1 trillion. Now we're at $160 billion.
For now, right now. It keeps adding up.
Well, it is a problem. You want to always compare things.
I didn't see Congress doing that.
If you want to, which you always do, to compare this to private sector standards, if you hired McKinsey to come in and to cut $2 trillion, then they said, oh, we'll get you $1 billion. Then they say, we'll get you $160 billion. You'd say, you're not doing a very good job. And also, maybe you were spreading lies about what's actually going on in the federal government.
$1.6 billion a day so far.
But the real story of DOGE is that Elon Musk has $38 billion in government contracts, has not had a penny of his money touched. Well, he's going around cutting other people's contracts. And there was a new congressional report out this week that found that he was up for $2.37 billion in potential fines across 11 agencies. And what has he been doing? He has been cutting the people who are investigating him. If that doesn't smell like corruption, I don't know what does.
In fact, the only person who seems not to understand what a sham DOGE was is Elon Musk himself, considering even Donald Trump is reportedly skeptical about the point of the whole commission. According to the Wall Street Journal, President Trump recently posed an evocative question to his advisors about billionaire Elon Musk's promise to slash $1 trillion in government spending. Quote, was it all bullshit? Trump asked, according to administration officials, wondering whether Musk could have ever come close to the cuts he promised to carry out through the Department of Government Efficiency. So Musk will undoubtedly continue grandstanding about waste, fraud, and abuse, and our bloated budgets, and irresponsible Republican budget bills, but his hands are the dirtiest of all. I don't know if the alleged ketamine is clouding his memory, but let's not forget that Elon had the opportunity to help on an issue that he himself called essential, and instead, he opted to help himself. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.